Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Movie Reviews. This is episode 41, and this is a triple feature number 7. Okay, and in this one I'm talking about all three Lost Boys films. Yes, all three of them. Lost Boys, The Tribe, and Lost Boys Thirst. First, the film that next year is going to be celebrating its 30th anniversary. The original Lost Boys film has two big stars in it. One, of course, became a star a decade later. The other was already a star already. The lead in the film was played by, not the immediate lead. The main character in the film was played by Jason Patric. I think he's like, he's like the older brother of the two brothers what comes with a woman who is a single mother. The other, of course, is Corey Feldman, who some people might recognize as the voice of, I think he was the original voice of Leonardo in the current TMNT cartoon, but they replaced him with Seth Green. And the other big star of the film is a guy who became a star a decade later, Kiefer Sutherland, 14 years before his 24 fame. And yes, I did tweet him if there's any plans for the 30th anniversary. I haven't heard back yet. It has not been that long, has it? Now, Kiefer Sutherland plays like the head of the group of vampires, but there's this thing called the head vampire thing, because if the head vampire is killed, all the vampires this person churned, we automatically turn back to human. That's a neat mythology, but as for the vampire's weaknesses, it's exactly what vampire weaknesses should be. When they're exposed to sunlight, they burn. And they can be killed by holy water, garlic can weaken them. It's also crosses, everything you can think of when it comes to vampires. Not the crap that Twilight tends to put out. This is the real stuff right here. Now, the original film is an R-rated film, and now the original film is an hour and 37 minutes. It's quite long. Even for a horror film, this is actually a bit long. But I do think that the runtime in the sequels does get shorter as the movies go forward. And now, I'm not going to spoil who the real head vampire is, because, Kiefer Sutherland is the head of the group of vampires that's in the film, and it's an enjoyable film to watch, and I give the film a 9 out of 10. It's a great film. Now, before I continue, some of you might be asking comments below about the Lost Boys comic published by Vertigo and it's written by Tim Seeley. I have read the first issue, and I actually liked it. It was really good. Now, I cannot tell if this comic is sort of a prequel or sequel comic to the original film. I don't know, because the only character I recognize, I only recognize, it probably is a prequel from what I can tell, and the cover is basically, it's the movie poster, which is that one right there, if you can apologize for the glare. Yeah, that's the movie poster for the original film, and that's what uses the cover for issue 1. I'm not sure what the covers are for issue, and it's a 6-issue limited series, and from what I can tell from the first issue, I quite enjoyed it. And from what also I can tell, that the comic takes place before the events of the film, because the group of vampires are all still very much alive, and the new kid has not moved to town yet. So this is probably just a few months prior to the events of the actual film. Yeah. And it's a quite enjoyable comic. I'm looking forward to next year's come out. And I do think, I do believe Vertigo made a good choice with Tim Seeley as the writer, because the guy was the writer of Hack Slash. So why not? The guy knows how to write horror, even though he's also writing Nightwing right now. So, good choice. And yes, I know he's also chosen to be the writer for Blade, and that book has been delayed for some reason. I don't know. But I'm looking forward whenever that comic comes out. Okay? Next up, it is the sequel, which is Lost Boys: The Tribe, and I have the unrated cut on this DVD case. This film was released in apparently the first one was based upon the book. I did not know that. Uh, oh, read the Berkeley book. I don't know what that is. Um, the second film came out in 2007. The original was released in 1987. And interesting fact. Well, not only because they bring back Corey Feldman, who's not really a big player in the second film, they see as in the first and third one. Now, here's the thing: the head vampire in this film is played by Kiefer Sutherland's son, Angus Sutherland, and from what I can tell, he's tall. Yes, I mean, one thing you should know about Kiefer Sutherland, and now Kiefer Sutherland, in case you may not know who he's related to, he's related to legendary actor Donald Sutherland, who is, I think, still acting. Angus Sutherland is Kiefer's son, and like his father, he plays the head vampire. My guess is that the director of the film, PJ Peace, or I'm not sure whoever it was. My guess is somebody must have been a fan of the original film, so they probably going to contact Kiefer to play a head vampire in this film, but the guy was too busy doing 24. Yeah, when the second film came out, which was in 2007, 24 was still on the air, and I believe it was going into its, if I remember, I think it might have been going into its 6th, 7th season. I think so, because after season 4, they decided to start have it to where the next few seasons start in January for some reason. I don't know why they did that. I think it was still they were still shooting the 24 show, so my guess is he was completely unavailable to not exactly reprise his role from the original film, because he does get taken care of in the film. But I think that because I think maybe they're going to ask him to play another head vampire, just like he did in the previous one, or maybe play some character. But my guess is the guy was too busy, so they got Corey Feldman, who was probably... Now, here's the thing I don't like about Corey Feldman in this film. The guy takes a while to show up, and the film is not focused on him at all. It's focused on this... I would say these twins, brother and sister twins, who moved to this coastal town, just like how it is in the original film, and they're renting out this small house, and they just happen to run into Angus Sutherland's vampires, and she gets kind of seduced by him, and somehow they find out apparently for some reason the brother of Edgar Frog's brother is not in this film. It's never explained exactly what happened to him in this film. Yeah, he's completely absent. I think he says he's off doing something else. So, oh yeah, and apparently between films, this is what happened to Edgar Frog. Apparently he's an ordained priest, which this is a bit bizarre for him. And he got this by pressing a button on a website. It says, "Ordain me." And he's automatically ordained a priest. So he can actually say a Latin prayer and just become whatever. I mean, I like this character development. At least he actually can be a priest and, of course, run his own business. Apparently, this is a bit bizarre. His business in this film to help fund his vampire hunting gigs, his vampire crusade, his anti-vampire crusade, apparently he sells boat parts. Yeah, he runs a boat shop out of his trailer. I am not kidding. He has a trailer also in the third film as well. It's a bit bizarre, to say the least, that he's doing this. And, oh, here's something interesting though. He actually still has the comics from the original film, which I'm actually surprised he actually... Now, he does still have them, but he doesn't usually use them. He doesn't show them off like he does in the next film. But it's kind of surprising he still has it. And also, they do bring back one of the characters from the first film. Well, apparently he's turned into a vampire, then he dies. He gets killed like toward the very end. So it was kind of surprising to see the guy. So, yeah. It's a pretty decent film for what it is. Oh, and I think in this film, yeah, I think it's in this film, there's this female this woman who's trying to seduce the male of the twins. Apparently where they got apparently get interrupted, and then she just shows up butt-ass naked to his house, and then they apparently hop in the shower together. Okay, and apparently and it's revealed that she's a vampire. Edgar kills her right away, and the sister gets kidnapped by Angus Sutherland's character. I do not remember his name. All I know is that it's Angus Sutherland. He gets kidnapped by him. She gets kidnapped by him, and they, of course, they go rescue her, and then the film kind of ends, well, prior to the whole vampire thing, where they get home and their landlady is yelling at them for being, like, rude or something. I'm not really sure. It's a pretty decent sequel for what it is. I mean, there's not much references to the first film, but it does take place after the events of the first film, though 20 years later. Now comes the third film in the series. Lost Boys: The Thirst, which Corey Feldman once again plays his character from the first film. Reprises his role again. Let's see here. I know his brother comes back in this movie too. Let's see. I don't think it's not listed on here. I don't know who played his brother in the original film. Let's find out. Okay. Some of you are wondering. His brother in the film is played by, in this film is played by Jason Newlander. Who I think what was in the original film. Let me take a look at that. Let's see. Yeah, he was in the original film, but he was not in the second film at all. Nope. Oh, I almost forgot to mention this. The director of the original film was Joe Schumacher. Yeah, the same guy who did Batman and Robin and Batman Forever in the 90s. And this is a comedy horror. The original film, it's very good. What would I give the second film? I didn't give it a rating. I give it a 8 out of 10. It's a pretty decent sequel for what it is. This one, it's like, oh, let's have Edgar team up with, let's have Edgar hired by an author who apparently by this one came out in 2010. Now the second film, I forgot to mention this. The second film's runtime is 94 minutes, and it's the uncut version. My guess is the cut version basically was not very good. Now the final film, The Thirst, this one is actually the shortest. I think it's the shortest. Let's see here. If I can look for the runtime here. Yeah, it's the shortest. Being 81 minutes. Yeah, it's the shortest of all three films. Now, apparently by this film, the film opens with a guy in a suit showing up at a trailer, which is owned by Edgar Frog. And apparently, and this is quite bizarre though. I mean, he puts up an eviction notice on. He puts like a notice on his door. I think it might be an eviction notice. And then Edgar comes out and is like, "What do you want?" And the guy is afraid of him. You gotta praise Corey Feldman for being very intimidating for a guy who's right now. Corey Feldman is in his 40s right now, and this film came out 7 years prior. So my guess is Corey Feldman, at the time of the third film, he must have been in his 30s when he. Let's see, yeah, this film came out in 2010, and Corey Feldman, he's currently 45. So let's see. In the first film, he was 16. In the second film, he was 36. I think in this film, he might have been, I'd say about 39, maybe. Yeah, he was 30. About 39 when the film was released. Yeah, about 39 was released. Yeah, so you have a 40-year-old guy hunting vampires. Yep. And he's got like, okay, I gotta make some payments to the bank regarding my trailer. Okay, so he wants to sell his comic books. Okay, fine. He's one of my favorite characters from the series, and In case you're wondering, the head vampire in this film is not a Sutherland. This is the first one not to do that. So he goes to a comic shop, and there's this hot goth chick who half the time is seen like in this kind of like a tutu skirt, hot woman, who actually has a thing for Edgar Frog. Yeah, she has a thing. I mean, it's heavily implied she has a thing for him the whole film, and I think he kind of knows about it, but I think he just kind of like a wink. I mean, she's there. Her name is Zoe. The character name is Zoe, and she's kind of like a possible love interest for him. Now, out of the blue, at this comic shop, while he's trying to make money, trying to sell off one particular comic, which apparently he has never read, and apparently it's still in the original packaging from the 80s. He thought maybe it might be worth something. And apparently he went and gets his hand on a Batman number 13. Now, I get the fact that particular comic, I mean, I'm not talking about the one that came out in 2012. Not that one. No. I'm talking about the one that came out in the early 40s. A comic that's probably worth $2-3 million. And what does Edgar Frog do with it? He takes to the character he killed off in the first film. That was the character who reprised his role from the first film, basically, who he basically buried in the second. He killed during a fight he had at the end of the second film. And he goes to his grave and puts the Batman 13 comic there. I'm like, okay, I get the fact that the guy was actually like that comic, but really, Edgar, you put a comic that's worth millions of dollars and you put it on someone's grave. Okay, I mean, oh yeah, and later on the film it's revealed that the comic he actually was trying to sold for $200, which should possibly get the bank off his back. Now, the writer who hires him, it's a woman, by the way, and she apparently likes what he does, so she basically hires him to find her brother who has been abducted by vampires. I am not kidding about this. And apparently she also contacted someone else who's kind of like who kind of knows about vampires as well. She contacts a reality show host. I'm not kidding about this. She does. And Edgar does not like this guy at all. Oh, and his brother's seen not that much in the film, but he's in the film. And apparently he's a half vampire. And he, they were trying to stop a congressman from turning into a vampire. So, and of course there was this vampire senator. Yeah, they killed the vampire senator, and the congressman basically since resigned from his position and kind of like a consultant to Edgar, kind of helping him out. Yep, so he does feels about vampires. But I'm kind of like, here's the thing, Edgar. How did you know that a senator was a vampire? How the heck did he find that out? It's never explained in the film how the heck this... Apparently they go to D.C. to do this, to stop this vampire senator from converting this congressman into a vampire. Now, I'm kind of like, how the heck did he find out about this? It's never explained in the film. I'm not sure why, but it isn't. But back to the person. The person who gets hired, who's the reality show host. Let's see. The guy who gets hired. Apparently his name is... Johnny Trash. That's his name. And the guy, now apparently they had this thing about this alpha vampire. The guy who basically turned everybody into vampires. And they think that this guy is the alpha vampire. Who it really is, I'm not going to spoil it. But they kill him and he's not the alpha vampire. It's somebody else. Somebody who... They were very shocked he was. Apparently he's not, the guy who was kidnapped was not really the writer, apparently a lover of hers, which is really bizarre. And one of her plans is to be turned into a vampire. Okay, fine. And Edgar's brother shows up and they team up to fight the alpha vampire. It's a really fun scene. And it's a kind of enjoyable film. It's actually better than the previous film. No disrespect to Angus Sutherland, who was a great head vampire, by the way. but he's not his father when it comes to have a good charm to him. But he was very good what he was given. This film I kind of feel as though was a little bit better than the second film, but the thing is, this film came out almost 7 years ago. Right now it's been 6 years, and as far as I know, this is the last one. And now I like this film. Some people probably don't, but the thing is with The Tribe and The Thirst, these two are direct to DVD sequels, while the original film was actually a theatrical release. I don't know why they did that for, but they did. But I do praise the producers for bringing back Corey Foreman for the sequels. I do praise it for that. And my guess is it's probably Philip B. Goffine. My guess is he might have been the person who brought back Corey Foreman. Maybe he was a fan of his from the 80s, because Corey Foreman was in films like The Goonies. He was in 2 Friday the 13th films. As a matter of fact, he was in the final chapter and then briefly flashback for part 5. But the guy was a good actor. But I think all he does now is voiceovers. Angus, I'm not sure what the heck he does. Kiefer, of course, is on a new show called Survivor. Yeah, that's his current show. But the thing is, people have Kiefer Sutherland, they think of one thing: 24. Called Designated Survivor. It's a political drama. But that's where he is now. But as for everybody else, I'm not sure what happened to them after the events after the Lost Boys came out. But Corey Foreman had a pretty decent career afterwards. He's kind of like, in some ways, his career is kind of similar to how Bruce Campbell is, where he's kind of like not really big films, really big things, but he's still a pretty good actor for what he is. But as for why I give The Thirst, I give this film a 8.5 out of 10. It's kind of an improvement over the previous film. One reason why is because Edgar Frog is actually in it a lot more, and 2, his brother's actually in it, and 3, they actually reference characters from the original film. Yeah, apparently the older brother guy from the first film, who was played by who actually does not appear in this film, it is referenced that he and Star, his love interest from the original film, they apparently got married after the events of that film, and Edgar wanted to leave them alone. So I do praise them for actually referencing that film. I think they also referenced the previous film as well. My guess is because they probably knew this was going to be the last one made. I don't know. It's a possibility. I kind of wish they made maybe another one, because, some people probably didn't like The Thirst because they were drugs, stuff like that. I mean, my big thing I liked about the sequels is seeing Edgar Frog. I mean, I like this guy simply because, like me, he's a huge comic book fan. And the guy basically loves hunting vampires. And the guy had been hunting vampires since he was a teenager. That's how the films go. But overall, do I recommend getting the 3 films? Oh, heck yes. But I do recommend, if you can, and I know this particular case is about 5 years old. I think I found this at Big Lots, but I do recommend tracking this particular case down, because you get all 3 films, and they're very enjoyable to watch. Okay? So, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. Excuse me. Which will be episode 42. And whatever after that. Yeah, I also got to mention, though, that even though that James Rolfe just did Lost Boys a few days ago on Monster Madness, I felt as though I should give my 2 cents about it, because it's a really good film, and I really enjoy it. Okay? I mean, it's not like a really big film, but it's a really good film to watch. But I do mention this. The film is an R-rated film, and it has nothing to do with Peter Pan at all. Just that the name is a reference to it at all. That's just the film. But mainly, it's just about vampires, and you get a chance to see Kiefer Sutherland at a young age. Okay? So, see you all next time. Bye.